Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. In this episode, I'll be discussing the 2016 science fiction romantic movie Passengers, as directed by Morten Tyldum and partially based on the 1950s EC comic story 50 Girls 50. Now, before I get started with my review, I just want to give a big shout out to My Mixed Biscuit, who actually requested this review quite some time ago, to be fair. I'm not always the fastest with my review requests, but I do get round to them. My Mixed Biscuit is another YouTuber kind of bringing us lots of gameplay videos for games such as Fortnite, Among Us, just to kind of name a few. My Mixed Biscuit is a regular commenter on my channel, and so if you do have the time, please do check out their channel. I will leave a link to the channel in the description below, and we'll link a My Mixed Biscuit video to the end of this episode. Additionally, I don't know if I will be able to keep this episode spoiler free, given kind of some of the things I actually want to discuss. I have actually seen the movie quite a number of times before, and I've kind of really been looking forward to this movie review because it is actually quite an interesting and special movie, I think. So that kind of probably suggests where I am with whether or not I like this movie. Indeed, I have, from the very first viewing for me. It is the kind of film that I can actually watch time and time again. It has quite a hold on me, if I'm honest, which is kind of a bit odd, as I do kind of recall it being universally panned when it first came out. But that's not just something I can actually do with this film. So, please do switch off now if you don't want to hear any spoilers for this movie. But of course, please do return to SciFirst MovieTalk to let me know what you think of the movie. I would absolutely love to know what you thought. So, anywho, the movie, moving on. It's set in a time when the human race has colonised distant worlds, shall we say, and we follow the voyage of the starship Avalon, taking its 258 crew and some 5,000 passengers to the colony world of Homestead 2, a planet over 120 light years away. With all the ship's inhabitants in stasis, the ship itself on autopilot, partway through their voyage, the ship travels through an asteroid field, colliding with a gigantic rock, which ultimately results in the malfunctioning of one of the passengers' hibernation pods, that of Jim Preston, as played by Chris Pratt, who kind of awakes to find, the ship is deserted, unmanned, and with approximately 90 years still left to go before they reach their destination, and everybody else kind of wakes up. This fault with the hibernation pods, it's never been envisaged. The pods simply cannot fail. Obviously they did, but there is no protocol in place if anybody wakes up early, and no way to be put back into hibernation on the ship. Utterly alone, and with only androids and computers to kind of turn to for company, including the delightful and insightful android Arthur, as played by Michael Sheen, who, whilst offering support and, in his programmed capacity, cannot kind of offer the same level of companionship as a real person. So, yes, after reaching rock bottom, Jim stumbles across a stasis pod by chance, occupied by Aurora Lane, as played by Jennifer Laurence, with whom he starts to become kind of besotted, based solely on her profile and bio. Falling in love with her, with only really her very essence as much, and after much deliberation, Jim decides to awake Aurora, but kind of pretends her pod also malfunctioned. The two do slowly start to form a bond, and then their relationship starts to blossom, turning into some kind of love at first, and then passion. That is, until Aurora finds out exactly what Jim had done, essentially robbing her of her life. Filled with disdain and utterly betrayed, Aurora completely shuns, berates, and even attacks Jim. However, Unbeknownst to them, the ship actually suffered more from the asteroid hit than they actually realised, with systems now failing all over the ship to kind of compensate for something totally catastrophic. And so soon, the race is on to kind of save the ship and all its passengers. Jim and Aurora, they must, find a way to come together and discover the source of the system failures and do everything they can to set the ship back on its true course. So, I would just like to say from the very onset, this movie for me is simply stunning throughout and totally captivating. I was mesmerised from the very first time that I actually watched this and really totally smitten, if I'm honest, with the two leads, Pratt and Laurence, who have some great on-screen chemistry together in this movie, which really does make the film pop. From the trailer, I had a completely different idea of what this film was actually going to entail. The trailers kind of made it look, or at least the ones I saw, I actually thought Pratt's character was going to go on some kind of rampage. A little bit like Event Horizon, perhaps. I wasn't expecting a love story at all, and I wasn't expecting it to be as powerful as it was. But like I've said, totally smitten. The more sinister side of this film is not lost on me. Don't think that for a minute. I appreciate the dark nature of what Jim actually does by basically, what tantamounts really to forcefully taking Aurora's life away from her by waking her up too early. Some would even call their love that kind of develops thereafter a symptom of some kind of Stockholm syndrome. But, I suppose the hopeless romantic in me wants to see the good side of the coin. Perhaps my view is somewhat blinkered, and perhaps I am somewhat dazzled, by the bright lights and the pretty people. But I just think that ultimately there is real love depicted in this film. And in the end, and I think, it warms my heart every time, regardless of how it kind of came about. I don't approve of the decision Jim makes to wake Aurora up. It is disgusting that he keeps it a secret, but you can see why he did it and even sympathise to some extent. The moral questions surrounding his actions are profound, and ultimately you do have to ask yourself, after 12 months of being completely alone, with a chance you could be with somebody for real, what would you do? I'm sorry, but without ever being faced with that situation, you couldn't know. However strong you think you might be in character, and it's that which I kind of think resonates with me, or as a way of kind of accepting the dilemma faced by Jim in the movie. He is faced with the prospect of living out his entire life alone, and never seeing or even arriving at his planned destination. He does try to forget. He does try to stop himself. And you can feel the guilt and the grief after he does it, kind of eating him away inside. But yes, agreed. He's absolutely despicable for not coming clean immediately. But again, you can see why he doesn't. The longer he leaves it, the harder it actually then becomes. He never set out in life to do what he did. He never originally set out to do what he did. It wasn't his first or even his 100th thought after being awoke early himself. He wasn't inherently evil, just lonely and depressed. I'm not trying to excuse his actions at all. Just kind of trying to see things from his perspective, at that particular point in time. To counteract it, Aurora's reactions are as equally understandable when she finds out about Jim's betrayal, Her heart is literally broken in two. Her whole world and belief system, as it is right now in the movie, comes crashing down on her like nothing before. Totally devastating. The pain and anguish she feels says what we've all been thinking. And we all feel for her too. You know, our hearts literally break. They sink as we feel her pain. The duplicity of the film in this respect, and the way that it kind of involves you deeply with both of its characters, is part of its draw for me. That and the sci-fi, you know? It really invests you with them along this journey, and neither's plight is kind of any less or any more than the other's. You feel both of their pain, which is why I think the love story angle, it does work so well for me. The movie itself and the visuals are a treat to watch. It certainly looks and feels the part, with some really breathtaking and impressive cinematography. The music, as composed by Thomas Newman, second time this week he has appeared, whilst perhaps not being up to the standard of his themes, you know, he penned for the 1994 movie The Shawshank Redemption, they are superb in themselves nonetheless, and bring, you know, the splendour of the movie, the ship, and the overall voyage that these people are on alive. Even being quite haunting at times, which does kind of assist with the feeling of emptiness and loneliness felt by the characters being on board the grand and magnificently detailed Starship Avalon. What I would say is that although the CGI does hold up for the most part, especially within the ship itself, there is one scene where they kind of lose gravity on board, which is simply fantastic. The detail, especially when we find Aurora getting into trouble when they lose gravity in the ship's swimming pool, oof, the way that they have done this with the water, you know, in the anti-gravity situation is cool. It really is. It doesn't, however, always work so well when they are outside of the ship. And I did notice a few occasions where the CGI was kind of really noticeable. Now, whether or not this was because those elements were supposed to be in 3D or not, I'm not entirely sure. I have watched it in 3D. It's spectacular. For this review, I watched it in 2D, so it could be that difference. I'm not sure. Finally, just to mention, Laurence Fishburne, he does pop up for a bit in the film as Gus Mancuso, but his time on board is brief and only really serves to allow the two main characters to kind of access parts of the ship that had previously been restricted to them. His appearance is nice and convenient, you know, but not unwelcome. And it does allow us to get, you know, and to understand some of the ship's inner workings, which does become a really nice touch of sci-fi, especially with kind of the peril that ensues at the end of the film, which kind of does top off the film quite nicely. Overall, for me, you know, I think this is a severely underrated and unfairly berated movie. It is stunning throughout and contains some impressive cinematography. A dark, but yet by the end brilliantly heartwarming story of two people who would never have met otherwise. I do appreciate just how dark this film actually is when you scratch the surface. Very much alluding to a kind of a captive and captor relationship, which could be very much interpreted as impression, and even, as Aurora states in the film, a kind of murder. But in the end, you know, the sheer fact that they actually stayed together for so long, for their entire lives, with each having an option out of the relationship, if you will, as they do find a way for one of them to be able to be put back into hibernation. That was a real testament to their love. For me, it is just a shame that we really didn't find out just exactly what had become of them, you know. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps we didn't need to know. I don't know. Just that they lived a good life together, maybe, yeah. A life well lived, full of dreams fulfilled. Yeah, maybe we didn't. It's heartwarming enough. So, I'm just dreaming away, but yeah. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you did like the episode, please let me know. Leave a like and please hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions. I'm still dreaming. Trailer reactions and other movie-related content. But yes, most of all, we would love to have you at SciFirst Movie Talk. We would definitely love to have you back. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.